Just very briefly, we've structured Jubilee into three core divisions. The first, of course, is the company that founded Jubilee. Jubilee was founded on Charter Platinum, which is a very, very large exploration company in South Africa that contains 44 million ounces. It's big in anyone's language. It's the world's largest undeveloped block of platinum. And is fully drilled and currently with the Department of Mining Resources awaiting its mining right. The key focus of our company, though, is the next part, which we are very excited about. During these tough times, Jubilee was able to acquire 2 platinum surface projects, very large ones, 44 million tons of pre-mined ore lying at surface. We concluded the designs, and we've designed a company that will be delivering 40,000 ounces per annum of these platinum ounces, and we'll be delivering that in 2016 as we're currently busy constructing the first plant, and we'll be commissioning that in February, and then we tackle the second one, a much larger one, to commission that in December next year. All of that on the back of our processing license from Conroast. Conroast is a platinum recovery process that was developed by Jubilee, patented by Jubilee, which we hold exclusively. And it's on the back of that patent that we were able to outpace many of our competitors to secure these very lucrative surface projects. It's projects that are regarded by many platinum companies, and to give you an idea, the one we acquired from Mitsubishi, we were up against 24 other companies, and we were able to outpace them because of our metallurgical ability to demonstrate factually to very large companies that we are able to recover the platinum better, more efficiently, and effectively than other companies. We also, in this past year, since my chairman presented in February, concluded the sale of our non-core assets. These are assets we've developed up to a point where they've achieved their earnings profile, very little growth left in their earnings, and we were able to sell them to complement our current cash in the company by a further £5.7 million in cash, which makes Jubilee today a company with reasonable cash. We got cash in the bank north of £7 to £8 million, executing a current project which will commission in February to generate further cash, and then building the second surface project following that. Just very briefly, Charter, we're not going to spend much time on it. It's the project for the future. It's not even reflected much in our current value market capitalization. A project of 44 million ounces in North South Africa, fully drilled, waiting for the department to issue its mining right to allow us to continue the development of that project. It's a project of its sheer size that Jubilee will partner or target to partner with a joint venture partner to develop that into an operational mine. Our key focus at the moment, the first of our surface projects, at the top just showing you the type of surface or material we'll be processing. This material actually is an interesting history out of South Africa, because under law in South Africa, mining companies were only allowed to recover minerals that they hold the mining right for. So these materials were actually mined by chrome companies, although the ore also contains both platinum, gold, and some copper. They weren't allowed to recover that gold, copper, or platinum, and it was dumped onto surface after the chrome was recovered. It's over the last 10 years that platinum companies realized how lucrative it would be to acquire these assets, recover the platinum from this material because it's already been mined. So Jubilee, amongst many other companies, saw this and entered this market trying to acquire this material. To distinguish ourselves from so many other companies, much larger than us, Jubilee first developed the processes and commercialized those processes in its Middelburg smelter complex to recover that platinum. So when we entered the market, we were ahead of the competitors. No one else could demonstrate to the large companies, we're speaking of the Mitsubishis, the Sinosteels, the Glencores of the world, that we have the ability, the capability, and the proven capability of recovering that platinum. And that's how we were able to secure these very lucrative assets. The first one, which is Asia, owned by Sinosteel, we've commenced the construction of this plant. We'll be commissioning it in February. These plants are, once the process has been developed, the construction and commissioning phase is very quick. It's about a 9-month process to bring these plants into operation. 2 months later, they're into cash flow. The first of which is Asia. To give you a sense of the size, it's about 1.1 million tons at surface and growing, because Asia continues to add material to that material at roughly about 11,000 tons a month. We're building a 30,000 tons a month processing plant at Asia. The second and much, much larger is Hernik. It's owned by Mitsubishi. It's the world's fourth largest ferrochrome producer. We've acquired rights to all of its surface material, 3.5 million tons on surface already, growing by 17,000 tons a month. We're building South Africa's largest reprocessing plant, therefore the world's largest reprocessing plant of platinum at Hernik. 55,000 tons a month will be processed. We'll be targeting 31,000 ounces per annum of that project alone. We've partnered with Mitsubishi to develop that project, and we'll be building it also during 2016. So Jubilee, from a company that had an exploration right, a company that had a process how to recover platinum, will deliver in 2016 a platinum company that still holds all of that, but has two fully operational platinum processing projects in South Africa. That makes us a very significant and also unique platinum company, because we're targeting 40,000 ounces per annum without a single mine. What that means is it's 40,000 ounces per annum without a large labor force. Our total labor force is 120 people. Our labor force is not unskilled, unionized. They're skilled workers working in automated plants. We have no mining component, which means there's no geological component. The cost of mining, which is about 65% of making platinum, is not part of our project. So you can imagine our break-even costs for these projects are well below even today's record low prices. In fact, even at today's prices, we're running at north of 30% margins on these projects. The key development component, and to the frustration of our shareholders, was the development cost of these processes to be able to get to the point to now build these projects. These projects are fully bankable. Both projects have got a full bankable feasibility study concluded. All assets are in measured category, drilled to be able to approach banking institutions to fund the construction of these projects, so we don't require the funding from our shareholders. What are we doing? Our immediate next focus, as we say, 2016 is a very big year for Jubilee Platinum. It's building its two plants. It's delivering a 80,000 tons per month processing ability in 2016. The earnings potential of these two projects run at $12 million net, that is after tax profit, completely transforming our company in the very, very near term. And of course, that doesn't end there. We are already currently engaging. We are aggressively pursuing further such opportunities in South Africa. Now that we've been able to secure two, we're going for further such projects. We've got the brand, we've got the track record that have the companies such as Mitsubishi, Sinosteel electing us amongst the very many platinum producers who would like to be in this space. And of course, in the background, we still have our charter development project waiting for its mining right to come forward and actually reflect in our market cap. Just very briefly, just to get a sense of what these projects are. As I said, the material, the beauty of it is that at surface, pre-mined, we have no mining exposure at all on these projects. The first one, Asia, 1.1 million tons and growing. 1.1 was in 2014, so that's a year ago. So it's really going towards 1.5 million tons lying at surface that we'll be processing as it continues to grow. Hernik, which is owned by Mitsubishi, 3.5 million tons and growing at the moment. Hernik, as we said, these projects, they're fully bankable. We've drilled into measured category for these dams. Specifically, we did that so we could approach banks for debt financing without having to come to our shareholders for funding it off equity. The project already has 225,000 ounces at surface that we'll be processing and recovering into concentrate and selling on in the market. Very simplistic business model. Take the material, remove the chrome, upgrade the PGMs to a saleable concentrate and sell it on to refineries. Hernik, the status, we've commenced the surface work on this project. We've concluded all the design work, all the development work. Because we're partnering with very large companies in these projects like Mitsubishi, the development pipeline of these projects were quite long. These projects went through a full pilot scale, laboratory scale and commercial scale trialing. We have processed 50,000 tons purely in the development of the final recipe for these projects to ensure that they are low risk even from Mitsubishi's point of view. Asia, which is the project running slightly ahead of Hernik, it's slightly smaller as well. It's about half the size on the processing capacity side. Again, this project was drilled, developed, bankable feasibility studies concluded. funded. This project is currently being constructed off our own cash reserves. Jubilee is fully funded to conclude the commissioning and bringing this project into commercial production of its own cash reserves it holds currently. As I said, the first part of this project will be commissioned in February next year. It's operational, going to cash flow in March next year. Again, the ASA project, it's 100% owned by our subsidiary in Jubilee. We have executed all agreements, all regulatory requirements have been satisfied for us to commence production on this plant. The plant itself, just so you know, just to give pictures, we basically commenced 2 phases on this project. The first part is we take the material, we remove the chrome concentrate out of that material very profitably. We sell that chrome back to the chrome producer who's created that material in the first place, and we then commission the platinum plant in the back of that to recover the platinum concentrate. We do the exact same process on both projects. The only difference is at Hernik or Mitsubishi, it's double the size. The combined capacity will be 80,000 tons going into the platinum processing plant. Very significant, targeting 40,000 ounces per annum. And again, very significantly without a mine at all associated with that process. Just some numbers. It means that we'll have, as I said, an 80,000 ton a month processing capacity. So we're hitting just about 1 million tons a year. Our PGM recovery plant, which is at the back of the chrome circuit, gives you the sizes. As I said, 40,000 ounces is what we'll be delivering at a significant margin, even at today's platinum prices. A very enviable position to be in the platinum industry. Total capital that we'll be investing into this project is roughly about $21 million, of which Jubilee will be constructing and funding the first project with its own cash reserves, and have targeted bank financing, which has already been offered by a bank to fund the second project as well. Design and build programs are very quick because all the development work has been pre-funded by Jubilee. The actual execution of the project is a very quick 10-month build program, 2 months into cash flow following commissioning. And as I said, the first project is under construction and will be commissioned in February. Cash generative of these projects, excluding the chrome component, is about $12 million net after tax per annum that Jubilee faces, looks towards the future. Typical questions: we are operating in South Africa. It brings certain views in certain people's minds about South Africa. Platinum price, well, that's completely out of our control, but platinum prices where we are today. I've had such a good discussion yesterday with a very renowned analyst. And if you break down the platinum price into its basic components and you forget about what's happening in the world and you purely look at the basic fundamentals of demand and supply, what comes out very quickly is if you look from 2013 onwards, the platinum demand has steadily grown. Yes, China is growing slower, but it's growing, which means it's selling more cars, which requires more platinum. The United States have recorded a record car sales in history for 2015. Each car requires a catalyst, each car requires therefore PGMs, which is platinum and palladium. So the demand's going up, the supply is shrinking. We have the big 3, Anglo-American Platinum, Impala, Lonmin facing its own demise, all 3 taking platinum out of the market, cutting back productions because they have a high cost structure. They have deep mines employing thousands of people. So the supply is shrinking, demand is rising. It's only time until the fundamentals have to drive that price. In the interim, yes, we're facing a low platinum price. It's a platinum price influenced by investment platinum, paper platinum, where people are unwinding investment positions in platinum. So once that's wound down, fundamentals have to drive the platinum price. It's why we've pushed so hard to ensure that we are operational and selling platinum in 2016, so we ride that curve once fundamentals start driving the platinum price. So South Africa's labour force has definitely not drawn the best media. Many examples. We have a country with an extremely high unemployment rate. We have a country where mining has been built on the fundamentals of very large labour forces, large unskilled unionised labour forces. That brings a certain social order or a requirement for an adjustment in social order. Our projects, as I said, have no mining component. We do not employ large unskilled unionised labour at all. We have highly automated plants. Both plants combined have a labour force of 120 people only. Execution risk, of course, it exists. We're in that execution risk phase at the moment as we're building the first project. But as I said, because we're partnering with such large companies, we had to de-risk the projects. Our projects have gone through a very lengthy development process. We have, which is not common for mining at all, had to run commercial scale process trials to be able to demonstrate to these large companies how we've de-risked the project. So our risk is probably very low, but of course it exists. Operational risk is always around. Jubilee has established itself with a proven track record of taking companies, turning them around, making them cash flow generative and selling those companies at the right time, as we've done this year again. Financing risk. Fortunately, these projects are very bankable. The first project, Jubilee is financing off its own cash reserves. The second project has an offer from a bank to finance it. They are bankable purely because they are at surface, high margins, no large labor force, and profitable even at these prices. So the financing risk component is addressed by the very nature of the project. It's got no geological risk or mining component to it. So in essence, that's the company our chairman presented where we wanted to be. Today it's very nice to be able to present that we are there. We've got these two projects, we've secured them. We're building the first one. We're building the second one next year. We'll be commissioning both in 2016. So Jubilee goes from an exploration company with two projects to an exploration company with two very high earnings generative projects in 2016. And that's the target we've set for ourselves and promise our shareholders to deliver. As a board, we basically have quite a tight board, 5 individuals. Colin Bird, our chairman, was presenting here in February. He's got a very long track record of delivering successful companies to the market in London. Dr. Matthew Sposa, who supports me in South Africa, is a very renowned businessman in South Africa, very influential individual, and been very active in the political scene in South Africa. Andrew Sarosi, who is here today as well, has a very long-standing history in mining. And Christopher Malefi is also the chairman of Merafe, which is the largest ferrochrome and chrome producer in South Africa. That is a black-owned company in South Africa. That's the board. So really, in summary, I'm hoping I rushed through it because I suppose the excitement of where we've come to. But in essence, I'll try to get the message across that Jubilee is a company with a very clear focus right now. We're developing surface operations, high earnings potential operations. We're funding it off our own cash reserves and of non-equity funding structures. We've got our forecasted earnings, which are high, significant, and sustainable. We still own Charte, which hasn't even reflected much value through our market cap, which is still one of the world's largest undeveloped PGM blocks in South Africa and in the world. The business model that we've presented today is on the back of patented exclusive process recipe that we own in the company, and we were able to execute this year our profitable non-core cash generative divisions to fund the development of these very high cash generative projects in Jubilee. And that's the company we are today. Thanks. Hi, Morris.
Push worldwide for electric cars.
Yeah.
If the whole world was suddenly electric, how would that affect the price of platinum and what you're trying to?
Sure. I mean, electric cars is been spoken about a lot at the moment. I think what is very good is to look at the combination of what truly would be the future of automobiles, what you've got, and if you want to look at what Nissan, BMW, Toyota, and Ford has announced, the future that they're working towards is actually not electric cars, but fuel cell cars. Electric cars, of course, is a car that doesn't require platinum. A fuel cell car, which is the ultimate future, which requires hydrogen and oxygen, which is in everybody's air. It's not linked to any particular country or region that holds that energy source. A fuel cell, which is the ultimate green energy for automobiles, use 20 times more platinum than a catalyst of a diesel car or a petrol car, and that's the future of automobiles. And that's not coming from platinum companies, that's coming from the automobile companies themselves. No, why they're going towards the fuel cell is purely because it makes countries independent from energy sources. Every country has oxygen, every country has hydrogen. And it's the ultimate green because your byproduct is pure water. Already, the first commercial fuel cell cars will be ready to be launched in Japan for the Winter Olympics. Yes, in Madagascar we are not investing any further into Madagascar. At this stage, our focus is platinum, surface platinum and high margin projects. It's a good question. When the license will be given, I wish I could give you a straight answer, to be honest with you. It's purely dependent on the South African government when that'll be awarded. I personally engaged on Monday with the Director General of South Africa's mines. We can confirm that factually nothing further is required from us. We have met every regulatory requirement and we purely await the Minister's grant. That's the key next step, for that to be reflected in our value.
I've seen a few announcements on warrant holders exercising their rights, which are bringing more shares into issues, diluting shareholders. How much more of that is expected?
We issued, we've announced how many warrants are outstanding. There are not very many left. It was a key requirement in the 2011s and 12s and 13th, when the capital markets were at their worst for junior companies, for Jubilee to be able to secure funding to still continue its development, to deliver these two projects. Warrants was an inevitable requirement to secure that funding.
Those are banks, the warrant holders?
Yeah.
Are they banks?
No, it's large funds. Yeah.
My understanding is with the Congress facility we have that is guaranteed until 2020. Yes. Can you elaborate beyond that at all?
Yeah, sure. So we have an exclusive right till 2020 on Conrost. It doesn't mean that after 2020 that everything comes to a halt. Jubilee, when it acquired that patent or developed and secured that patent, has added tremendous additional knowledge and IP to that core recipe. That knowledge IP remains ours, no one else. We certainly won't share that knowledge and IP with the world. It's purely the core recipe that exclusivity expires in 2020. We still retain all the additional knowledge and development we've invested into that core recipe. I mean, I don't want to. It's difficult to give an answer to their statement other than I agree with you. But yeah, we run a very tight shift. He runs he has a big whip. Yeah, we do get criticized that we're not good salesmen, but we are good at executing. Thank you.
These two plants, what's the expected life span of them?
Oh, sure. So typically, both projects in excess of 10 years, both projects. It is linked to the Chrome company who continues to add material to that current live stock. But at current, already on-surface material, they each have a 10-year life already. Okay. Very long, sustainable project. Each of those projects have a capital return in excess of 30% alone. So you can imagine why banks would fund those kind of projects.
At $1,250 an ounce.
Yeah. But remember, that was at 8 Rand to the dollar. We're now at 14 Rand to the dollar, and our cost is in rands. So the one thing you always note, the platinum price might come down in dollars, but in rand terms, we have a very marginal drop in actual platinum prices in South Africa. Sorry? Yeah, our main process is what we're doing right now, as you can imagine, is as we build up our own bulk in producing our own concentrate to smelt, we ultimately then can re-enter the refining component to also then expand our refining capability.
Are you going to, you're talking about these surface projects, do you think you're going to be acquiring those once you're into production? that the likely outcome?
A very good question. I mean, it's a debate we as a board and Colin has often. I don't think the market conditions that we are in will probably ever see again, where you have the third largest platinum producer in the world trying to desperately raise funding to stay alive. You've got a lot of platinum producers who have built up a debt in their company, forcing themselves to sell assets that would typically never come onto the market to try and pay down their debt. Jubilee is in a position where we have not a single pound of debt on the balance sheet at all. We have cash in the bank and very cash generative assets commissioning in February. So it does put us in a position to look at assets that typically would never be offered ever again in the platinum industry. So without saying yes, it's definitely likely.
Sorry, moving on to that. What you have now in South Africa is Anglo-Platinum sold based off
Yeah.
How long can that be sustainable? Because do you understand what I'm talking about? What effect that have on that market?
On the platinum market, yeah, well,
I think they'll shut.
well, at the moment, it's not sustainable. What you have at the moment in South Africa is the large platinum producers burning cash to stay alive. It can't go on for long. Oh, yeah. Let me not talk the book of that company that has acquired those mines, but it certainly is a very difficult business model to acquire such high-cost mines and turn them around in these platinum price markets. I'd far rather look at companies who have a high margin on the assets they're developing. Oh, if they had to shut down, it's a dramatic impact, because already we're in a position where the demand's growing and supply is dropping. If that had to shut down, there's an immediate significant deficit in platinum available to the market based on demand alone for the automobile industry. So you'll have a dramatic platinum correction that will have to come through to ensure that the remaining mines remain sustainable to supply the world with platinum, because the world cannot go forward without platinum. Me too. Thank you.